looking for myself in that picture. Okay, thank you, Council. Thank you, Gallery. Welcome, David Ganella. You're early. Nice to have you here, David. Thank you for coming a little bit earlier than we originally had you scheduled. We are looking forward to the 25th Annual Roots and Blues Festival overview. Please come up to the mic.
Well, thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to meet before you guys and let you know how we did this year, which was, I'm happy to say it's been a positive year. Let's see this thing. Okay. As the community knows, the Salmon Folk Community Society is a non-profit charitable organization, and we present the Roots and Blues every third weekend in August. Our goals is to expose, entertain, and enrich our community by delivering an excellent presentation of culturally diverse music and related artistic experiences, engaging a multi-generational audience. As Destination BC has been noted since 2017, they are considering us an anchor event in the region that we both benefit the local business community and provincial economy. For our type of music festival, we've been for quite a bit of time the highest attended outdoor musical event. This year, I'm happy to say that we had a boost in our attendance by 700, even with everything that was happening, to 27,700. And we've established ourselves as a 4-day event with the Thursday concert. So that's a transition that we've been doing for the last 2 years. So now I think we're pretty much solid 4-day event. For the last few years, sorry, it seems some of the titles didn't really work out through the trends when I brought these over. But for patron demographics, we had surveyed, with the help of Shuswap Tourism, we would do a event survey during the event and a post-event survey. So out of that, we had 526 individuals who were surveyed. And out of that grouping, we had 8% that was from the 18 to 34 age group, 26% out of the 35 to 55, and 66% out of the 56 plus. Out of that grouping, of the total grouping, we had 75% coming from outside the Shuswap. 65% stayed in the Shuswap 2+ days. That's an increase from last year. And 78% plan to attend the event in 2019. So out of that survey, that actually has gone up from 76%. So that's really good to know. Yeah, some of these fonts are just not looking right. Sorry about that.
We get it.
We get it. I should send a PDF next time. Okay. Out of that, all of our festival buyers of passes, 2% were international. We think that's a bump from the year before, which was 0.05%. So that's less than 1% last year. What we did this year in promotions was we combined the Roots and Blues and a group of other package items from the Shuswap, and we sent them to RV companies. So they would actually, and we had it set up where the packages would be ready in the rented RV, not in the display area. So when they rented the RV, our Shuswap stuff was right there, right by the steering wheel. So I think we had a little bit of bump, and that was connected from that. 90% was from outside BC. That's pretty consistent from previous years, and of course we have the most of our patrons coming from BC. This next graph is ticket buyers by region, and we always try to do this over a 5-year period at all times, just to kind of give ourselves a way of knowing how we've done in the past, how we're doing presently, and where we want to go in the future. One of the points I like to look at is we had a bump this year in Salmon attendees. That was a pretty good bump. We've also had a consistent growth for the last 3 years, and you could say actually the last 5 years from Kelowna, which is a good sign. Kamloops is the same. We had 3 years of good growth. The real one that's been supplementing our ticket buyers and the fluctuation is the increase from the Vancouver area. That is, again, another boost, 3 years running. As you can see, In 2015, we had a substantial drop, so we've seemed to turn the corner and start to increase each year. People coming from Alberta, as other Alberta areas outside Calgary, has been increasing as well. This graph's kind of difficult. I would say, if someone wants to look at this later, I would advise you do it then. But it just breaks down in BC at that 79% where individuals, ticket buyers are coming from, sort of by the percentages. So again, the Columbia Shoe Shop is leading on that. And the other Central Okanagan is the one that's been growing. So that's a good sign there. On this next one, this is the Roots and Blues Festival ticket types. So we have weekend and 3-day types passes available. Again, we've been having a good increase on weekend sales the last 3 years from 2015. That is actually going counter to what's happening across the board in the event festival industry. Most places actually are seeing a decrease in weekend sales, weekend pass sales, and an increase in day sales. So hopefully we can stave off that, because that's the best value for our patrons is buying weekend. But you will notice that the Friday night, the Franti, seemed to really give us a boost in day sales. That was the best sales out of last 7 years for a Friday night. So many of you were probably there. And the Sunday night, Colin James, he definitely delivered, and that was the best after the last 5 years. One of the things that we've been working on that's been growing, this is the third annual Super Crawl. Someone here helped us coin that phrase from a music crawl. We changed it into a Super Crawl to kind of heighten the anticipation and just the fun of it. And at that event, we did it over 15 bands, over 7 locations from the Tuesday to the Thursday night. So as you can see, we had shows in Askew's Uptown. Wednesday on the Wharf we participated with them as a sponsorship. Harold Nix was at the art gallery. Silk Skull Hammer was at the Shoe Shop Pie Company. They weren't serving; they actually were playing there. Shoe Shop Theater was also a place we had bands. This is really hard to watch. Okay, the Legion, Salmon Legion was one of them. That is actually a space that we're continuing to try to find new ways of using. It's a nice space. We participate with the Downtown Improvement Agency to help schedule and promote their live music at the Plaza. And we had another show this year again at the Barley Station Brew Pub. And of course, we ended it at the festival, which is a great way to start the festival weekend with the 2 concerts, and that's a member appreciation event on that night. Let me just catch up myself here. So one of the biggest projects we had this year, the Environment Committee was set out a plan to reduce waste going into the landfill. And that's where we had the support of the CSRD, Spa Hills, and Cheap Garbage. The board, the volunteers, and the GT Dragon Boat team met over a 4-month period to organize a plan of action, group to find new procedures to separate compostables, recyclables, refundable, and landfill items. We had sponsors. That was Cheap Garbage, Canoe Forest Products, and NBR distributors. This is basically the early drawings of what kind of container we wanted to use. We basically designed something that we could use pre-existing bins that we already owned. So instead of having try a lower capital cost, so we built these facades that actually went in front of the garbage cans, so to make them easy access. But it took some time to figure that out. And the group the environmental committee determined that we needed 16 recycling stations. And this was to help patrons separate items on the side when they're going to be just delivering them to the bins. And half the stations, we did a plan to half of the 16, so 8 of them would have eco-educators. This is a term we coined from different sources around other events and other activities that people trying to avoid contamination downstream. So this was a part of it. So this person here is one of our eco-educators. So there we try to enlighten them as being a host. So there's, trying to bring as much fun as you can with waste management. Mm-hmm. So the single year cost was $4,400 and $3, and that included the garbage and recycling, compost, the transportation and supplies, less labor. supplies for the volunteer and backstage hospitality, and this included all compostable materials for service. The multi-year capital costs were just around the same amount, $4,602, and that was for signage, the recycling stations, labor, materials, and composting containers. So those were the ones we could actually have on a plan to kind of break down the costs each year. So this is really where for us the highlight starts is. In 2017, we had 7 tons of landfill waste delivered, and this year we actually processed 7.6, and only 2.7 actually made it to the landfill. So that was pretty substantial for us. So that ended up being 5.1 tons of potential material removed from the landfill. So, the event produces a lot of waste. So that was a good. This is probably something that we've could have done earlier, but I think the process worked best for us in the timeline that was presented. On to other projects. That this is some of you in the city know about our storage containers. That last October we were faced with in 2017 that we had to start renting our containers that we used during the event because we were in process of or storage items being stored in offsite the storage event that's right across the street from Buckerfields that the city is letting us rent is in the process of being decommissioned at some point for the highway process. So we wanted to be ahead of the curve, and this was a good opportunity that our hand was forced to having to rent this equipment. So we were looking at about a $13,000 annual cost, and we looked at this as a potential expense, changing that expense into a long-term investment. One of the side benefits of this investment was that it reduced 120 volunteer hours of moving equipment from the other offsite storage device. So there's some carbon footprint that we also reduced that we didn't have calculated for this presentation. And each storage containers, how we designed it was, so like as an example, we have Artist Liaison. That committee has their own bin that they would have every year. Instead of them moving their stuff offsite, getting mixed up with everyone else's, now they put it into this container. And that container's taken away and returned, and they have a home. No one else looks at it other than their committee, so it really gives them more efficiencies that are really hard to calculate. In the event we would want to move the event somewhere else in town for whatever reason that comes up, we now are able to do that because we're sort of a circus at this point with all these containers. The next big project that we had this year was we've been seeking to have a kitchen space to support our volunteer lounge committee. This committee is where the volunteers meet and eat. It's a hub, basically, that's away from site. It's on site, but it's away from the main area. And it's a way of them just cooling off, get a drink or a snack, and able to just hang out with each other between their shifts or when they just want to get out of the crowds. Renting the trailers, which we've done in the past, is quite costly. As you see here, it's about $2,500 to $3,000 per year. So we were looking at investing in how we could invest. We first looked at buying a trailer, and that was in the $45,000 range and up. So we looked at a facility that was already on the grandstands, already on the fairgrounds, which was the kitchen underneath the grandstands. It had been used in prior festivals, but it had become so just needed a lot of work to bring it up to code because IH would not let us be in there. So we chose to make it into a what we call a non-meat prep kitchen. That's their words from Interior Health. I don't know if anyone ever uses that phrase, but that was able to, with some help from our Dancore Electric was a major help with that. We had to replace all the ceilings because they were completely rotten. The lights were rotten. The electrical had to be repaired. So we did a substantial amount of work and also buying the stainless steel equipment just so it would be long term. So this is a project that we've done it for our 4 days of event, but it's actually going to be there year round. So it's one of our projects that we just said it just needed to happen. So now the rest of the community groups can really benefit from it being there. So it ended up costing us $8,700, and we're looking at about a 3 to 5 year payback. So this is the 26th annual financial summary. I want to jump ahead really quick to the headliner-related expenses. That's actually not supposed to be in parentheses. That's actually was an increase, not a decrease, just so you know. beforehand. So the total revenues was $1,2991,000. We had a bump in ticket sales of 61,000. We had less sponsorship, and that was related to, later I'll get into how we looked at our alcohol sponsors. Instead of asking for cash, we asked for product. So that actually decreased the amount of cash that we would receive up front, but we would get it in product, which was typically $2 for every dollar they would give us. The headliner and then the expenses was $1,291,000. The environmental program related costs, this is with the labor. We have a service group that helps put the program together, and this is everything wrapped up into one was a $12,000 increase. The headliner related expenses was actually an increase of $57,802, and that was for mostly because we had Michael Franti, that opportunity to retain him coming later after we set our budget, which was approved. So we had to add this amount to just cover the extra costs that was going to be involved. The kegs and sponsored product, that was the sponsorship items that were less, so we're $8,900 less in sponsorship dollars, but it translated in about $20,000 in product from getting it directly from the supplier. And then after all of that, we were at $238 in revenue. So if this is how you want to budget, I guess this is a pretty tight way of doing it. And then in-kind contributions was $436,990. So that's just from, and that's not included in these above in the revenue or expenses. Looking forward, this year was our annual the liabilities. This year was the fires in BC. Again, I think the last 2 years we put on shows and had performers that were really going to be a draw. Our pre-sales proved that we thought we were going to have a big event, and then the smoke comes and people's buying and past buying really started to slow down dramatically. But we were ahead of our advanced gate, and we hit average for the weekend. So hopefully that's not going to become the new norm. We're looking at some point this is not on the forefront, but we're looking at ways of creating an indoor contingency plan. So in case the outdoor air quality is unsafe, we have to have some kind of plan in place because we don't want to be in a position of having to refund or having to say we won't refund passes, because that's kind of detrimental for the future of the event. Another liability we're looking forward is our demographic is aging. The average age is 55 years old, and that is actually gone down this year from the last couple of years. So that is improving, but we're still looking at that in ways we can improve that can bring in a younger group of people coming to the festival. One of the biggest liabilities this year going forward is going to be the paid security is being requested for Main and West Gate for all baggage handling. So that's a cost that we were not expecting, or we didn't have in our plan last year, but that we're going to have this year. So the new things for this year, we have a new 4-day pass. Excitement. I know it's a big deal for us, but everyone else is like, okay. But that's going to include a complimentary membership for the pass buyer. It's pretty exciting. And expanding the festival campgrounds. The city has approved that we can use the second half of the property on 10th Street and 10th Avenue, which is good news, which is going to help with each 4 of the properties. We're going to have less sites on each property now. It's going from 175 to 125 average. That will allow each site to have each camping slot to have more space around it. So we believe the onboarding from the streets will be faster because of that. And we're looking at enhancing programs for tweens and teenagers. Oh, it looks like I jumped ahead. We're also looking at funding for installing hydro on the South Fairground properties. I had a presentation earlier in the month on that. And that could potentially include 5 service kiosks. And I just jumped ahead. No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah. Very interesting and well done. Councillors, questions or comments? I would open it to you. Councillor Cannon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just curious what ideas do you have for teenager and tween program?
Well, for the tweens, we're looking at laser tag, having a little area for laser tag. Adding also a silent disco is another idea for the teenagers and tweens. The other one is bringing back the climbing wall. It's something they've been wanting for a few years. We believe the music program is already fitting within the demographic. It's just the activities, just to make them feel more welcome on site.
Okay, thanks.
And it's something we can't triple in a year. It's going to be incremental improvements.
Any other comments from council? Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, David, for the presentation, and your members of your board who are here for all your work. Remind me, how many volunteers?
This year we had 835, I think is the number. It ranges between 800 and 900.
800.
That's not counting the ones that were there. Is that the number you want to use? But those are the ones who are registered volunteers. Yes.
Yeah, that's astounding. I really.
It is astounding.
Yeah. And council, through you, Your Worship, to staff, and how much is the city committed to, just to remind me, on an annual basis?
To the Chief Financial Officer.
Ballpark,
Can
I believe
have a
it's
moment?
40.
I think David knows.
David, how much?
I don't know the exact number. It's around, I think it's 50,000.
50,000 per year. Yeah. So I just want to reiterate my support, how much value there is for the city in that 50,000. Because if you look at these statistics and the reach, and how many followers on Facebook, and your social media is has the largest following of anyone in the region.
Yeah, we just reached 7,400.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I mean, these reports are tough. You have to look back and
Yeah.
evaluate your efforts, but I can tell you that on this side of the table, it's very impressive, everything you've done and that you continue to do. So
I appreciate
you.
that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
It's okay. I have the number I needed. Sorry, Your Worship.
Councillor Flynn.
Thank you for your report, and thank you for a great time, and it's sad to see I actually bring up the average age, so attending the festival. But it was certainly nice to have those people tell me where to put my garbage in the right boxes, and they were fun.
Yes.
And they did a great job. And I did want to let council know, as one of the last things, as a representative on the Shuswap Tourism Committee, or Tourism Shuswap Committee, I have asked that David have a position there, and I believe you've kind of been promised to have a position there. So I'm excited that you're going to be on that advisory committee. So
Thank you, Kevin.
thanks.
Thank you. I guess my comment, first of all, we do have some board members in the audience and appreciate them. I was fortunate enough to sit on this board for the last 4 years. And I know whenever I spoke to council, I would say this is an extremely efficient and well-run board. Doug Hearn's in the audience, and all of those stats around garbage and around managing waste, it takes someone to lead it, and it was Doug who did it as a board member. And so, Doug, thank you. It's certainly given us an example here in the city, I think. And it goes to show you can make a big difference. Now, I know it took a lot of work, and it took some risk, and it took some cost, but it's noticeable. And I think now it'll just get easier as people get trained more. It will get easier. The other comments I'd like to make are festivals everywhere, we know in the province and all across North America, are struggling. It's not an easy business. And so what I especially like about your board and their staff is no matter how good things are, you are always looking ahead.
Yeah.
And I know when you come up with your ideas, the board members sometimes are going, oh man, really? Things are going so good already. But that's what makes you better.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, always improving is a real compliment to staff there who are always coming up with ideas. And your answer about the tweens, it's like a basketball game. Like you need to get people there who aren't there for the basketball. And it's about atmosphere. And I know your committees who are trying to kind of enhance the atmosphere there. It has changed over the last 4 years. When you walk on those grounds, it looks different, feels different.
Yes. I mean, we're focusing away from demographic. We're looking for traveler type. So we're working towards those type of experiences and what their expectations are. And we're looking at being more full service from the moment you walk up to the gate. We're looking at changing all those ways we interact with our patrons the moment they walk across the sidewalk and they're on. We're going to have hosts. We're looking at having them greet you just to make it so simple for you to get onto the site, get into your chair, and start listening to music.
Well, you're right. It's all about service. So
It
the,
is,
the other
yeah.
thing I'd like to say, just the last thing I'll say is I know the new hotel is going to help because I know a limiting factor is accommodation here.
Oh, yes.
And so I've heard from other groups that are like, oh boy, that hotel's going to help us out. Minor hockey's one, but I know it will help out the Roots and Blues as well.
It will, yes.
So thank you very much. Thanks, members of the board. Thank you, David, and we appreciate your presentation.
I'd like to say thank you to all of the council and, of course, you, the worship, and just for your continued support. We really, it's much needed, and thank you.
Okay, and I've passed the reins over to Councillor Cannon, who will be an excellent liaison for you. So, okay. Thank you, Corinne Grayston, Manager of the Visitors Information Center and Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Corinne, for being so patient, and welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon, or maybe getting a little bit later in the afternoon, but to provide you with an update on the Visitor Center, as well as the service provider contract, which expires at the end of this year. Thank you. Is that better? Okay. I have a little bit of a cold, so hopefully I won't interrupt too much with a cough. So just in the interest of time, I have focused this presentation on the Visitor Center only. I'm more than happy to share an update on the Chamber. I can either do that after the presentation if time permits. More than happy to come back again before the year's out. So I will leave that to Your Worship to let me know how you would like that to proceed. So, get the right button. Visitor Center role. The Visitor Center role, of course, is to provide tourism information. We maintain statistics, but more importantly, what we do on the ground is that we have very personal and engaging dialogues with individuals who are coming into our city and coming through our doors. We're filling vacation itinerary gaps. I can't even begin to count the number of times of people who have decided that they're going to come here to mountain bike because we've got these fabulous trails, and they're here for 2 or 3 days, but they need to fill their day with things other than just the trails. And they come in and they're absolutely amazed at the amount of recreation and other opportunities they have here, the food, the artisans, the music, the culture. And they're saying to us, you know, we had no idea, and we're going to stay another day or another 2 days. And that for us is the big check mark. That's what we're here for. And I think our staff do that very well. The other big thing is people who are interested in coming to Salmon Arm. The interior in Salmon Arm is a desirable place for people to be. And it's good to be in that position. We have people who are coming in, they're looking at the whole area, the interior area. They're searching Kelowna, they're searching Vernon, they're looking at Kamloops, Salmon Arm, etc., kicking tires, but they want to spend time chatting with us about what it is in our community that would be good for their family or themselves to come and live here. So it's a bit of a two-pronged approach. Visitor Center staff are chatting with them about all the great things that we can do for tourism and recreation. I'm on site to talk to them about business opportunities because most people are looking to come with their families and they need work. They need to know whether or not there's a business opportunity for them or a venture for them to go and start. So my conversations with them are part of what we've got here from a business community, but also making sure that we're connecting them to individuals or organizations that can help provide them with information or support them. So that's economic development, it's Shuswap Tourism Community Futures. So we have a lot of dialogue happening, very positive dialogue happening in the Visitor Center. And there's nothing more rewarding than someone that comes back to us and says, hey, we just moved here. And we did that because we had a great conversation with you guys 6 months ago or whatever it is. And we've had that. And it's probably kind of the cat's meow. It's pretty cool. So where do we do all of this? We are in the old courthouse, right on the corner of Shuswap and Trans-Canada Highway. We are open year-round. Where our hours fluctuate based on the season, and I have in this highlighted March, June, and September, October. So just for your purposes, a couple of years ago, we condensed our hours quite dramatically, and what we found is that we were a little too heavy-handed. So in 2017, In March and April, our hours were actually 10 to 4. September, October, we were 9:30 to 4:30. So we actually have opened up further, just simply because either through myself being at the chamber office when people are knocking on the door or tenants in the building, we just felt that we needed to open our doors a little bit earlier and stay a little bit later so that we could deal with that tourism traffic coming through. Stats, I did mention, I have lots of stats. So for any of you who are data junkies, just let me know. I can provide you with lots of information. But there are some key pieces here that I think are important to share with your worship. So first table is the number of visitors that come to Salmon Arm. And these are visitors that walk through our doors, or we have collected their data through our mobile visitor center program, which I'll talk a little bit about. So I've done a 3-year comparative. If we look at the total for 2018 and even 2017, we've had some slippage from 2016 numbers. I think that's really a direct result of forest fires, heavy smoke that we've been dealing with in 2017. We had flooding as well. We lost the trail to Margaret Falls. I mean, it's been a tough couple of years. But looking at 2018, July and August, our numbers were stronger. And that is a reflection of our mobile visitor center program. And that is where we are going out and we're reaching out to people directly at various locations throughout Salmon Arm. So that's Salmon Arm numbers. The chart below, or the table below, I also think it's important for us to look at where we're sitting in relation to sort of our 3, I kind of call them our main competitors. Vernon, Kelowna, and Kamloops. And I will say also, these numbers are just reflective to October because I just wanted to have current data for all the information here that we're providing. So if we look at Vernon and Kamloops, we're not that far off the mark from them. That's a good thing. When you look at Kelowna, though, we're a third of the number, not quite a third of the number that they are. And if you go through the chart or their line item, you can see that in July, the numbers just skyrocketed for them and have continued through. For most of you, you probably know that aligns with the time frame where they opened their new visitor center. So their numbers have gone quite high in comparison to that and comparison to previous years, and it's obviously continuing. Visitor origin, another bit of information that we gather. I think it's important to recognize where we have people coming from, and in particular, sort of our top 3. So in 2018, our number 1 is from BC. So individuals from BC continue to be very strong users of the visitor center. Number 2 is our locals. Our locals use our visitor center a lot. They have family coming in, they have reunions, weddings, all kinds of things like that, and they use our visitor center quite extensively. And then the third one is our individuals from Alberta. So we've still got a good presence from Alberta for 2018. Duration of stay, I like to include this just simply because I think it's important for us. We're always working to try and extend, the stays within Salmon Arm. So looking at 2017 to 2018, 2 nights and 3 nights, we had some growth in that area. And so that's always a good thing for us to be working and striving towards. Regional comparative. So of course the province itself is broken out into 6 regions. And these are the 2018 numbers to October of this year. Vancouver Island leading the charge, Vancouver Coast and Mountains, and then Thompson Okanagan, which is our area. Not that far behind Vancouver Coast and Mountains. So I think when I look at the fact that we've got 592,000 people coming into our area, and those are people who are walking through visitor center doors, right? So this is all collectible data. I think we just need to be looking at how we capture more of those people that come up to Salmon Arm. We need Salmon Arm to be part of that destination itinerary that they have. So we've got lots of potential there. What have we been up to? We work quite a bit with a number of different organizations, stakeholder, individuals, operators, etc. Shuswap Tourism, we do a lot of work with them. We're very thrilled to be part of the committee for the Lewiston Ultra, which was a very successful event, very exciting event, that ultra marathon for September of this year, and pretty excited that it's going to be back in 2019. MRDT, another very exciting project, and we're on that committee as a non-voting member. Well, we work a lot with the Salty Street Festival Committee as well to make sure that that is a growing, vibrant festival that happens in downtown Salmon Arm. And then for projects, social media, we cherry-picked, if I can say cherry-picked, we did cherry-pick a few locations throughout the summer where one of our visitor center staff drove out to, took pictures, and did Instagram shares out with those locations. Again, just trying to build on our Explore Salmon Arm hashtag, as well as Shuswap Tourism and all the other hashtags that are out there. Mobile Visitor Center. So we have 2 beach cruiser bicycles, and in one of the photos you can see one of them. We purchased them in 2017, and we've continued to just build on that program. So we have people who go out and cycle around the downtown area or the wharf area as far as they can get, and they are filled with vacation materials, the vacation planner, maps, etc. And they engage with people on the street as to what they're up to, where they're from, and what we can offer them as recreation to do here. So the other thing that we did last year, quite a bit stronger than we had done the previous year, is we actually went out to the campgrounds, and that's a really successful program, but we do it on foot. It's just too difficult to do with the bikes. But that was really a very strong piece to that mobile visitor center program, and it's a lot of people that we can capture. And they're, sort of in a relaxed environment. They're great. They're interested in chatting. And that program went over really well. Financially, I'd like to share with you a bit of a snapshot. So we've got where we are as of October 31st in our financials, and then the projected to the end of this year. So what you'll see with October 31st, if we just look at that net revenue, we're looking pretty swell at $21,714. But I will tell you that in October, that's when we get our final installment from the city of Salmon Arm. So it's always really a good thing to report financially in October, because we look flush with cash. However, those monies have already been earmarked for expenses until the end of the year. So projecting to the end of this year, I project that we are going to come out with a $2,300 surplus. And there's a couple of reasons. The main reason is Destination BC, which is our tourism destination organization. They normally have a conference in November, and they've actually moved it to February. So that's a $1,200 expense that we won't incur this year. So we're going to come out ahead of the game. I would very much like to take that surplus and put it towards the Salmon Arm brand, which we're very excited. I mean, the Chamber was a funding partner as well. We're really excited about the new Salmon Arm brand. And I'd like to utilize those monies to create signage within the visitor center with our mobile visitor center promo wear and et cetera. Really help to expand that brand. So what is the value of the visitor center on a provincial basis, but then how does that really sort of drill down to us here in Salmon Arm? So Destination BC, which I did mention is our provincial tourism organization, has 112 visitor centers in BC, and those are certified visitor centers. And just to be clear, we have a certified visitor center, and that's a very important piece of the network. All of our visitor center counselors are certified. They go through specific training in order to deliver the services. So according to Destination BC, those visitor centers served over 2.9 million visitors in 2017. And Destination BC has determined that the average daily spending for a tourist is $350 a day. So being a bit of a numbers person, I kind of like to take that and then drill it down to what that means in Salmon Arm potentially. And this is a very conservative calculation, but the city invests in the visitor center to the tune of $134,450 per annum, or at least they did in 2018. So if we take that number and we divide it by the number of visitors that have come through our doors as of October 31st, so 11,442, we come to $11.75 per person. So for every person who walks through our door, that's the city's investment. If we take the DBC $350 a day calculation and chop it down to 50%, which is a conservative number, that's $175. And then we take the number of visitors and we chunk them down by 50%. Now we're at $57.21. So if we take those two numbers and multiply them together, we come to a little over $1 million. Then let's take that million, we'll subtract out the city investment, and our return on investment, conservative, is $866,000, which I think is a pretty good investment in our community and in tourism. So I think that number, my opinion, but I think our visitor center and our staff are a huge reason why we can achieve those kind of numbers. And I think we actually do better than that, but I'm being fairly conservative in the calculation. So getting to the contract itself, I would like to say first off that the Chamber has been very proud and we're very honored to hold the visitor center contract. We have held that for many years, more than I actually know. I've been here for 13 years. We've held it at least that long, if not, and there's longer before then. But as I mentioned, first off, that service provider contract is going to expire at the end of December in 2018. So the Chamber has been talking about this, the Chamber Board, I should say, has been talking about this probably for the last 18 months, back and forth about this renewal, and taking into account the fact that there are numerous new initiatives that are in place, and they're quite exciting. So we've got MRDT funding, Shuswap Tourism with their strategic planning, we've got the Salmon Arm brand. Things are changing in a very positive way for Salmon Arm. And so we've made the decision to depart from our standard request, which is usually a 3-year renewal, to a 1-year renewal for the period of 2019 for the visitor center. And that is specifically because there's a number of initiatives that we would like to see happen or we would like to be part of for 2019, but we want to also allow for maximum flexibility for all the parties and to come back to the city with a report and some suggestions, which I'll speak to in a couple of minutes. And then I would think at that time, at the end of 2019, we'll probably be back asking for a 3-year contract renewal. But we are going to depart from the standard for this year. And the cost that we are asking for, or the funding I should say, is $137,140. So how is that money going to shift out? I will share with your worship that we have met with city staff to go through. We've provided a line-by-line revenue and expense budget. So they've had the opportunity to go through, and we've had a meeting to discuss where the numbers are. Do they make sense? Are they, valid for the purposes of running the visitor center? And so all of that has been shared out already. I did want to provide you with 2018 numbers as well as 2019, just because I think it's important to see where changes are happening. So 2018, the contract was $134,450. We are asking for a 2% increase to $137,140. Destination BC has already committed for the next 2 years now that they will provide visitor centers with $12,500 per annum for funding. And then there's just some miscellaneous income that the visitor center has, a little bit of advertising for racking. We have some old merchandise that we're kind of fire sailing out. So we're dwindling down on that, which is why the 2018 number is actually higher than 2019. And it's just because we're getting rid of some old merchandise that we don't intend to replace at this time. We've actually been talking a little bit about if there's a Salmon Arm brand swag, and we would actually sell that on behalf of MRDT, and all those monies would go back for the purpose of MRDT. So we don't really want to be in the business of competing with our existing businesses who are selling souvenir type items. So we're just continuing to clear out the inventory. So those revenue numbers do come out to $151,130, and because we work on a sort of balanced budget that way, our expenses are at $151,130. So that would be our request for the 2019 year. What are we going to do in 2019? We're going to continue to deliver high quality tourism services to the visitor centers and locals and others who are asking for any information about Salmon Arm. Going to continue to lobby TOTA, Destination BC, Shuswap Tourism, and MRDT. They're already on side with it, but we want to continue to lobby the value of visitor centers and get that profile out there. That's really, I think, suffered in the last little while. Continue, of course, to promote Salmon Arm in the Shuswap region as a vacation destination, relocation. We're going to further build on our social media and online strategies. Our Facebook page continues to build. I'm actually going to, in 2019, our intention is to incorporate video, very short video, into the Instagram program. So I'm learning as quick as I can on all the social media stuff, and trying to be fearless and move forward. So we'll continue on, and of course the Mobile Visitor Center. That's a great program. We're going to continue to build on it. I would like to have more staff or more staff time allocated to attend events as opposed to just being out. I will say when we have bad air quality because of smoke, I don't ask the staff to go out on the bike. It's just not. It's not good health. So, but we need to be able to get them out to events. The other thing that I'm thinking with the Mobile Visitor Center is to create a little bit more of a survey. They take statistics, but I'm a little bit more curious to have some information about how people, do they know about visitor centers? Do they use them? So, some more information that we can collect from them. And the one thing that we would very much like to undertake for 2019, the Chamber, is to do a tourism analysis report. And if I may add, Your Worship, I was very excited to hear on 2 occasions your discussion about taking a look at the visitor center and what that facility will be, what it will look like, all of that. So this is something that we have been talking about for a while, and part of why we feel that a 1-year contract maybe makes sense at this point. Like, let's just go out and really flush out what that is. So, we'll have discussions with TOTA, Destination BC, Shuswap Tourism, MRDT, our stakeholder organizations, other stakeholder organizations, the providers, etc. But try to really look at different models, what we've got, what our strengths are, what the emerging trends are, what the current trends are, and come back with recommendations, or at least report findings and recommendations that we would present to staff with a view to discussing, hopefully implementing some, all, or part thereof. So that's what the Chamber would like to do as part of the Visitor Center contract for 2019. And in conclusion, we do recognize how valuable and important tourism is to our community, and we have really, valued our role as the provider. So we're pretty excited about the next evolution of tourism. We've got some great things happening here. And we look forward to being able to work with the city in the role for 2019 and future. So that's
great. Thank you very much, Corinne, for your very complete report. And with the indulgence of council, I suggest that we move forward to item 8.4, which is directly linked to Corinne's presentation, and then if we have any questions, we have Corinne here to ask her. Does anyone on council have any troubles with that? Okay, let's move forward then to 8.4, and all of the information that is in that report was presented by Corinne. So Councillor Eliason moves. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Wallace-Richmond. And the motion is that the Mayor and Corporate Officer be authorized to execute a fee-for-service agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for the operation of the Visitors Information Centre for a 1-year term from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019 for $137,000, $140. We have a mover and a seconder. Would you speak to the motion? Any speakers to the motion? You've answered most questions, it looks like to me. Okay, seeing no questions, all in favor of the motion? It is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thanks, Corinne. Appreciate you
Your
coming
Worship.
and talking to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll just check one more time before anybody, does anybody have a question for Corinne not based on the motion? Okay, you did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to our third presenter, Lana Fitz, Salmon Arm Economic Development Society, MRDT 1-year tactical plan. Welcome, Lana.
Thank you. It's already there, great.
Yeah, we'll just give you a minute to get together there.
Sure. So thanks very much for allowing us a little bit of time on the agenda today. So in alignment with the service agreement between SAIDS and the City of Salmon Arm, as well as reporting requirements from the province of BC, we're pleased to be here today to present the 2019 MRDT Tactical Plan for Council's consideration. So we've previously submitted the full 40-page document for your review, so my presentation today is really meant to be a quick 8.5-minute summary of the key points of the 40-page document, and of course here to answer any questions as well. So the 2019 tactical plan that's before you was prepared with under the guidance and direction of the 5-year MRDT business plan that was previously prepared by our community. So this business plan includes a vision that Salmon Arm and the broader Shuswap region will be recognized as an all-season destination, a destination of choice for visitors from around the world. Further, the business plan lays out that it'll be governed by 4 guiding principles, and these guiding principles were developed by our broader tourism stakeholders, our accommodators. They were endorsed by the MRDT committee, by the SAIDS board, and by the City of Salmon Arm. And those include that the program will be accommodator-led. It will support the implementation of specific local tourism initiatives. It will support and expand the work of multiple tourism stakeholder organizations, and it will include a collaborative approach, ensuring strong alignment with the strategic plans of our partner organizations. And finally, all projects will support the overarching goal of focusing on shoulder and off-season tourism development for Salmon Arm. So again, all these factors have been considered in the 2019 MRDT tactical plan that's before you. So the MRDT program is led by a committee of 11 representatives from our community, 5 of which are voting members, 6 are non-voting. Our voting members include Sebastian Hofstetter. He's our tourism representative on the EDS board and chairperson of the MRDT committee. Carol Bolio from Viewpoint RV Park and Cottages. We have 1 vacant position previously held by Leanne, who is the general manager of Hilltop Inn. We are looking to fill that position quite shortly. 2 other voting stakeholders include Tova Chance from the Shuswap Pico and Jim Dunlop from Canoe Beach Cafe and Rentals. Non-voting partners include the City of Salmon Arm, Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, Downtown Salmon Arm, Shuswap Tourism, Shuswap Trail Alliance, and Shuswap Rec Society. So jumping into the budget for 2019, you do have the detailed budget before you. So what I've tried to do here is summarize and condense that multi-page document into a single page that can clearly show Council how the funds from the 2019 MRDT program will be dispersed in our community. So looking first at revenue, we have carry forward funds coming forward from 2018 to 2019 of $166,512. This comprises 2 sources of funding. The first is deferred projects from 2018 that weren't complete, and the second is revenue that exceeded projections for 2018. So looking first at deferred projects, we had 3 initiatives in 2018 that we held pending the completion of the Salmon Arm branding project. Those included the visitor kiosks, the wayfinding project, and the Canoe Beach entrance beautification. So the revenue attached to those programs just moves forward to 2019, and those projects will be completed in the upcoming year. Revenue projections for 2018, we had projected revenue of $185,000, whereas it looks like our actuals are going to be coming in closer to $240,000 for this year. So in total, we have $166,512 in funding coming forward from 2018. In addition to that, our 2% revenue projection for 2019 is $220,000. We took a conservative and what we feel is a reasonable approach to estimating this revenue amount. As Council is aware, there are many factors, many variables that can affect the tourism economy in any given year, so this is our best guess of what we can expect to see in 2019. 2019 also brings forward the initial new factor for us with the implementation of new legislation taxing also short-term vacation rentals that came in on October 1st. So as a community, we really have no way of measuring what that impact will be on our MRDT program. Obviously positive, but we don't know to what extent. So we feel $220,000 is a reasonable estimate. So in total for 2019, we're looking at funding of $386,512. Taking a look now at how those funds will be expensed, Council does have a complete list of all the 16 projects and programs before you, whereas this slide just presents a summary of how these funds will be distributed amongst the community. So $228,000 will be directed towards programs and projects that will be led or initiated directly by the MRDT committee. $103,000 will be for programs and projects initiated by our partner organizations. So this includes Shuswap Tourism, Shuswap Trail Alliance, and the Visitor Center. These are for programs and projects that are incremental to their existing operating budgets, and specifically those that align with the MRDT goals and objectives. Community event support. This is a $20,000 fund to support community organizations in Salmon Arm that are hosting events in our community in the shoulder season or off season that will result in increased visitors to our community and specifically increased overnight stays. In total, projects and programs for 2019 equates to $351,000. A further $35,512 will be allocated to administration costs. And these are funds that come back to EDS for administering the program. It allows us to recoup some of the costs spent for staffing and office space and office supplies associated with administering the MRDT program. So total expenses equate to $386,512, presenting a balanced budget. Again, just a quick look at some of the initiatives that are included in the tactical plan. Each one of these is included in your report that's before you. It has individual budgets and an individual description for each of them as well. We will be looking to construct and install visitor kiosks in high traffic visitor locations in Salmon Arm. Looking at installing wayfinding signage, Canoe Beach entrance beautification and signage. This project is already underway in communications with city staff and other community partners. Special event grant fund, I mentioned earlier, will be continuing with this into 2019. Event hosting database. This is going to be a web-based platform of everything anyone needs to know to host an event in Salmon Arm. Jennifer Strachan, our event relations specialist, has been working hard on compiling all of the data associated with this, but it'll include information around public and private venues, catering facilities, accommodators, and how to connect with those accommodators to secure group rates and block rooms for events in our community, as well as contact information for Jen and a specific listing of the support services that she can provide, among many other things. This database is growing daily, but it's been very valuable so far. Contract tourism promoter and trainer. This initiative came out of the Salmon Arm branding project. Resonance Consultancy brought forward, drew attention to the fact that Salmon Arm could be doing a better job of promoting ourselves on key tourism platforms such as TripAdvisor and Yelp, promoting events, activities, and experiences, key tourism assets that are right now underrepresented on some of those key platforms. So this contract position will focus in 2019 on bringing our community up to a level playing field with some of our competitor communities and promoting some of the events and activities that are available here. Further, that position will be working one-on-one with tourism businesses and also in workshop format to share knowledge and expertise on how our businesses can better capitalize on social media platforms as well as some of those key tourism platforms like Yelp and TripAdvisor. Image bank and video bank development. This is a partnership initiative with Shuswap Tourism and an important one as we move to launch our new brand. We need high quality and current images of our community. These images will also be made available to businesses for the promotion of not just tourism but resident attraction. Cruiser program expansion. This is building on Corin's presentation actually and the mobile visitor center focus. So a small contribution from the MRDT fund will support the outreach initiative by the Visitor Center to extend their ability to be out of the Visitor Center building, interacting with visitors in our community in high traffic locations and events that are happening here. This is something that came right from our MRDT business plan that was felt to be a priority, really that interaction with tourists where they naturally gather in Salmon Arm. Shuswap Trail Alliance We'll be undertaking numerous projects in 2019, including trail planning, including the West Bay Connector, trail signage initiatives, GPS mapping, and Shuswap Trail Alliance web updates. Shuswap Tourism will be undertaking marketing projects with the support of the MRDT Fund, including entrance signage, expansion, development and expanded distribution of print materials, web updates for the Shuswap Tourism website, social media strategy and social media campaign, which will have a seasonal focus, and an expansion of the number of consumer trade shows. In particular, we've partnered with Shuswap Tourism to attend the Calgary Outdoor Show in a few months. We'll be there in March. So in summary, the 2019 tactical plan process, we prepared this plan under the guidance and direction of the 5-year business plan and in consultation with our community partners. It has been endorsed at this point by the MRDT committee and by the SAIDS board, and we are here to request council's consideration to further endorsing this plan. Next steps would see it going on to Destination BC and Ministry of Finance for their approval. And then this plan would be our guiding document for our work plan for the 2019 year. Some other next steps I just wanted to share with you quickly in regards to the MRDT program. We will be back here in March to present our 2018 financial report and annual measurables report to council. And something else I wanted to mention is our strategic planning process that we're planning for the fall. So as we move into 2020 and fall of 2019, we will be nearing the halfway mark for our 5-year plan for this initiative, which is, it is hard to believe. But it's an important time to do a check-in with the community again, to report back publicly on our measurables and what we've been seeing in terms of trends for visitors into Salmon Arm and accommodator revenues, as well as receive input on how we should be focusing those efforts going forward for the remainder of our 2.5-year term. So we look forward to, of course, engaging city staff and council in that strategic planning session. So this is a very quick summary of the document before you, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Lana. Thanks for the more specific information you sent earlier. And I would suggest to council we handle this the same way we did the chamber, by moving to item number 8.3, which asks for council's endorsement. And then we have Lana here, and she would be able to answer any questions that we might have. So if you turn to item 8.3, it's Director of Corporate Services 2019 Tactical Plan, Municipal Regional District Tax. Is there someone who would like to make that motion? Councillor Eliason, is there a seconder? Councillor Cannon, thank you. The motion is, Council approve the City of Salmon Arm Municipal Regional District Tax 2019 Tactical Plan, just presented, attached as Appendix A to the staff report dated November 20th, 2018 for submission to the province. Discussion. Questions for Lana? Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just some quick comments. Thank you, Lana, for the report. As the new CSRD representative, I'm getting up to speed on all that you've been doing, along with Sebastian, the MRDT Committee, Trail Alliance, Shuswap Tourism, and all the other organizations in putting together this tactical plan. And I wholeheartedly endorse it. I am so happy after all the years that we were without a regional hotel tax that we have one, and really looking forward to the projects that are being presented and look forward to ones in the future. And you've done a lot of work. I think the way we've structured this makes sense through EDS, and I know it seems like every time something new comes up we just ask EDS to do it or you to do it, but I think you've had a really good collaboration, and again, thanks to Sebastian and others that have been involved in making this happen and making it happen so well. So I will gladly support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lavery.
Thanks, Lana, for the presentation. And even though shortly we'll be halfway through, we're really at the beginning still. I mean, this is still tweaking an initiative that started a little while ago, and the EDSs and the partners have run together with this. For the students that are here, the Youth Council, there's this fancy thing called the Municipal and Regional District Tax, but it's best known as the hotel tax, in that visitors to Salmon Arm pay 2% into a fund that goes to this committee that decides how to promote tourism within Salmon Arm and within the region. There's a regional component to this. So it's a way of leveraging visitors so that we can promote more visitors, especially during the shoulder seasons when we really need it. So this is the whole intent of this, and I would certainly thank the MRDT committee for activating an idea that we had a couple of years ago, and it wasn't that long ago that we decided to proceed with this. The accommodators themselves are the ones that make the decisions because they're collecting their business model is collecting the tax. And so they make the decisions, it comes back and then comes back to council to approve for the following year. So good job all around, everybody. I particularly like the idea of social media training, and one of the line items I think was a contract for promoter and trainer, and I think that's a great idea as well in terms of social media. And I was thinking of the chamber and the tourism center when I first saw that line item. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Councillor Flynn.
Yeah, sorry. Question for you, Lana. In the province, or the non-hoteliers, the VRBOs, they offered and came to the province and said, we will contribute towards MRDT wherever that it occurs. Is there something you want to see the city play a role in working on perhaps better regulation or control on VRBO, separate from your motion, and maybe we don't want to address it today, but if there is something, I think that we need to know that, because I think lots of municipalities, especially the resort municipalities, are really struggling with dealing with vacation rentals and the impact that they have on hoteliers and the community, and we haven't really dealt with that, I don't think, at the table. So is there going to be something coming forward from either this committee or EDS to have us look at some type of regulation?
Thanks, Councillor, for bringing that up. It's a really good point. We've seen other communities in the province take a proactive approach to regulating short-term vacation rentals. It's certainly a conversation that's happened at our MRDT committee table, and one that we'll be looking to pursue in the upcoming year. I think it's a conversation with council and with city staff to better understand what the best approach is. There's always a trade-off to putting bylaws and governance in place in terms of monitoring and overseeing that, for sure. But we do know that short-term vacation rentals has a significant impact on our tourism economy. How much, we'll be able to tell in a little while once we start seeing some of that funding come in. But we also know that it also affects our long-term our long-term rental market in Salmon Arm, which Salmon Arm certainly struggles with at our 0% vacancy rate. So it's another consideration in how we monitor those properties. So I think a bigger conversation that'll come forward in the new year.
And provincially, am I correct, just to make sure, that the province has decided that money that's coming from the VRBO rentals is allowed to be used in affordable housing provincially? Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So with the legislation change that happened in October, just the portion of funds that are collected through these short-term vacation rentals, communities have the ability to use them for affordable housing initiatives.
And that's up to the MRDT committee to determine if they want to do that locally.
The way that the structure is right now with the committee, the EDS board has allocated decision-making authority to the MRDT committee and to ensure that it's in alignment with the goals and objectives in the business plan. So yes, at this point, it's the MRDT committee bringing forward those initiatives to the EDS board. Safeguard is EDS board has the authority to approve the tactical plan, and further, the City of Salmon Arm has the authority to approve it as well. From what I've been hearing from the MRDT committee, it is not a wish of the committee to use those funds for affordable housing. We did pass a motion last year at the committee level to encourage the province to appropriately fund affordable housing initiatives for communities, but that it should be broadly based in a cross-sectoral approach as opposed to just looking at it from tourism funding.
Yeah, and personally I agree with that, so I'm glad that the committee took that approach.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Thank you, Lana. Thanks for managing the MRDT from the outset. We're appreciative of council. It's hard to believe that revenues of over $300,000, we're missing out on that previously, and every community I go to, when I go to a hotel, I pay it. So appreciate your work, appreciate Sebastian's work as well. And I think Councillor Lavery did a good job of explaining what it's about. For the Youth Council, just a further kind of benefit, the way the circle works is that you heard Lana and you also heard Corinne from the Chamber talking about the trail system in Salmon Arm and the fact that it attracts tourists here. And so part of the MRDT funding goes towards making those trails better. So then in the shoulder seasons, hikers will come here in May and June and September and October, and they will stay in our hotels. So that's how the circle works. Is there any other comments from council? All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, we've moved through number 8. We are now at council statements. Councillors, do any of you have statements to make today? Okay, seeing none. Salmon Arm Secondary Youth Council. Wow, you guys have listened for a long time. It's time for us to listen to you. Please come forward.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council, for having us today. I'm Sarah Johnston, and this is Emma Brennan. We're here representing the SAS Youth Council. We wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for the past 4 years and all that was accomplished in that time, and congratulate everyone for being elected. Our Youth Council is looking forward to seeing the progress that will be made over the next few months and next year.
In October at Sullivan, we held a mock student election. Over 300 students aged between 15 and 17 years were able to cast votes along with the rest of the city. Our results from Sullivan were similar to the actual results. Mayor Harrison was elected along with councillors Tim Lavery, Debbie Cannon, Kevin Flynn, Louise Wallace-Richmond, and Sylvia Lindgreen. The students also voted in Kevin Babcock and Joe McDermott, who tied with Councillor Sylvia Lindgreen. Councillor Chad Eliason was elected by the city, and in the city vote, he was so close to being elected, he was only short 4 votes.
Please continue, Youth Council. You're doing a good job of ignoring. Continue.
We will be attending one more meeting before Christmas. After the new year, we will be polling the students at Sullivan about issues concerning Salmon Arm. We will be engaging the mayor and council about what issues should be included. For example, we would like to work with Megan Jordan for more council communication with more youth communication with the government. We would also like to invite the mayor and the councils to hold a public meeting at Sullivan in May. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much. We'll just see if councillors have any questions for you. Present your presentation. Sarah and Eva, we appreciate you coming forward and speaking to us, and we certainly support the Youth Council and Mr. Gom and all of the students that are here. It's really refreshing to have youth in our council chamber. There's a couple of speakers. Councillor Lavery.
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks for the presentation. I was going to note a little earlier that for the politics class, that it's not just politicians. I think that you'll get exposure not just to the politicians, because really in the whole system we are the ones with short careers, and some might argue how much influence we do have. But you've already heard today that there are careers in local governments for if you're an accountant, if you're a water technologist. We're passing rates about water and sewers, but there's people there are engineers who put them in place. There are folks who do that, and there's planners, there's trades positions available in local government. So I'd really encourage you, I know you're in Politics 12 for the political science part of it all, but there is a huge there are huge career opportunities that you'll get exposed to as you come through the meetings, and hopefully that you'd keep those in mind as you're figuring out your future. So looking forward to working with you.
Yeah, the future.
Councillor Eliason.
Oh, it does work. Look at that. I was wondering through you, your worship, through to staff, they've requested that we host a meeting there. Do we need to give that direction to staff to arrange that?
Do we need a motion, Chief Administrative Officer?
Not at this time. We'll report back if we do.
Okay, but we appreciate your invitation.
But staff has direction that I think council would like to do that. See?
Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks, Your Worship. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days, especially this time of year. We're getting closer to end of term and so on. I think you can really help us out, especially when the communication piece in terms of how, as a city, we can do a better job of reaching out to you. We think we know the answer, but it's unlikely that we do. So we'll be looking for that feedback as well.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving through our agenda to notice of motion. Item number 16. There's two notices of motion, and this is just for information for council. A notice of motion is kind of heads up to councillors about things that are coming up in the future. So my notice of motion about checkout shopping bag regulations, it's on the screen. It's not here for debate today, but it's a heads up for councillors to think about, and in 2 weeks I'll be asking for a mover and seconder so that we can discuss. If council would like to find out more information about this kind of initiative, the City of Victoria passed this legislation July 1st, 2018. And so they're 1 year ahead of what I'm proposing. But you can find out lots of information on site on the Victoria website about their successes with this program. The second notice of motion is Councillor Lavery regarding transit, and I know it was handed out in paper. Councillor Lavery, do you wish to say anything about your notice of motion?
No, it's just an introduction, Your Worship. I think it's pretty straightforward, but essentially for review the 2017 transit service ridership review that was presented to us, and to consider putting us out of the allocation process, and we can talk about that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lavery, and I think we all appreciate in advance of the actual budget meetings having a chance to discuss any increases or decreases to the budget. So we will talk about that one in 2 weeks as well. Moving ahead then, our question and answer period. Is there anyone in the audience who has a question they would like to ask? If so, please come forward to the microphone. Okay, seeing no questions, we will adjourn our meeting until 7 p.m. this evening when we hold our public hearings. Thank you very much, Council.